I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only
What's
one.
up, everybody? Welcome to my channel.
No one
I'm
likes being
Sunshinery. Make
lied
sure
to.
to subscribe and like this video.
You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now,
What are your thoughts on dating apps?
Dating apps are the new nightclub without alcohol, which is wonderful. Dating apps shouldn't be called dating apps. They should be called meeting apps. A dating app should feel no different than in the olden days. If you're at a nightclub and a dude walks by and says, hi, you either look at him, don't look at him, say hi back, or don't turn your back. That's all a dating app is, that moment.
I was also going to ask you, I feel like there's a lot of advice out there that it's important to be actually dating more than one person. Otherwise, you could potentially just fall in love with one person without experiencing what else could be out there.
That's the voice of paradox of choice talking.
What is a good alternative for people who don't love dating apps to meet somebody?
Everywhere in the world. If you are in the mating marketplace, then every time you leave your door, look like you're looking for a date.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. We are here for yet again another Rachel Goes Rogue podcast episode. We are now on chapter 38, Working Issues Out with Dr. Wendy, which a little sneak peek from what you might have seen in the little preview that I posted, but it looks like she's talking again about dating apps and dating and things like that. The show notes, though, say Dr. Wendy Walsh and Rachel go deep. Wendy has clear advice for Rachel about love that she needs to hear. Might help you as well. So everybody, let's not waste any time. Make sure to like this video. It helps the channel so very much. Make sure you are subscribed if you are not yet subscribed with your notifications set to all. All right, let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of Rachel Goes Rogue. I'm your host, Rachel Leviss, and today we're continuing to dive into the dating pool. I'm so excited to continue on this journey back to dating. So after having my last dating expert join me, Jake is awesome, but I think it's important to have different experts come on to get different points of view, because I guess that's the smartest way to go about it, getting different advice from different points of view, and then figuring out what works best for me. So as we dive into these dating topics, I recommend that you do the same. Take what you like and leave the rest. And that's why I'm so excited to have today's guest join me as I continue to navigate this dating world. I'm bringing in Dr. Wendy Walsh. She's known as America's relationship expert. Dr. Wendy Walsh is an award-winning television journalist, a radio host, and podcaster, the author of 3 books on relationships and thousands of print and digital articles. She holds a Ph.D. in clinical psychology and has been a host of her own radio show, The Dr. Wendy Walsh Show, since 2015. She's also former Emmy-nominated host of The Doctors, as well as former host of Extra and named the Time Magazine Person of the Year in 2017. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Wendy Walsh. I'm really happy to have you here to talk about dating.
Thank you. It's my favorite topic.
Now, I like Jake. I thought he was a great guest on our show. He kept it real. He kept it not just isolated for her, but for everybody else. So that way people could use the advice that he was giving, and it wasn't just directed towards Rachel and her experience and what she's been through and what she needs to do, but like what everybody as a whole can do. And I agree with her statement with taking what you believe will work best for you and applying that. I just feel like she didn't get the answers that she wanted with Jake, that she now has to have somebody else on because she didn't get what she wanted. Or like him directing everything towards her and her experience and what she needs to do. Though he did direct things towards her, she didn't like what he was directing towards her. And I have a feeling that this expert is also going to give her very similar advice. What is going to happen when it's the same advice or very similar and she's not willing to try it? I think, though, since having Jake on, we've seen her a little bit more open to the online dating. I wouldn't say as much of like what he said about, kissing on the first date or having sex and things like that. And those are things that she does not need to apply. It was just his advice and his expertise from everything he's learned and what he sees work. Now, Dr. Wendy Walsh, she gave her brief summary, which is pretty much everything on her website. The only thing I will say is that she has about 1.5 million people that she advises on social media, and her TikTok page, just her TikTok, boosts more than 1 million followers. So, if you are dating or looking for great relationship advice even, she's your girl. I will link her stuff down below like I always do. So check her out and let's see what Miss Dr. Wendy Williams has to say to Miss Rachel Savannah Leviss and her dating life.
Let's start at the beginning. Since you have a background in psychology, why is it that some women are more drawn to men they know are bad for them?
Well, there's two pieces actually. One is attachment style. So women who have suffered some kind of abuse in their childhood, whether that abuse was emotional, physical, or sexual, which makes up more than 1/3 of all women, by the way. And usually that abuse came from the hand of someone they loved. And so their model for love, psychologists might call it the internal working model for love, is mixed up with pain and longing. So that's familiar to them. And I always say, love isn't about finding happiness, it's about finding the familiar. So the only thing we can do is change our model for love and learn to accept and tolerate kindness. So that's one thing. The other thing is women like to quote unquote date up. They were also brought up through the patriarchy and through Cinderella stories. And we are at a time in our history where there are actually more working women than working men in America right now. We've seen in the last 20 years the feminization of college campuses. Women are making great strides, getting ahead in education and income, but they still want a guy who's more educated or a little older, who makes more money. And that is a dwindling supply of men. So with the, I hate the word alpha male because it's not true, but let's just say the high value male mate, he has so much choice right now because all the women are vying for them. So he doesn't have to work very hard and he doesn't have to treat women very well at all.
Now, I stopped here because this therapist makes wonderful points, and I cannot pinpoint, just like this therapist cannot pinpoint exactly why Rachel goes for the type of guys that she does. We know that she was adopted. Yes, she had wonderful, amazing adoptive parents from everything that we've seen on Vanderpump and have been told, but she still could have that abandonment issue, that fear of, I wasn't good enough for my biological parents, that they just up and left me, that this is what I deserve, this is what I'm worthy of, and this is all I'll get. I can also see what this therapist is calling the alpha male, where she wants somebody that is well educated like she is, that is a strong, handsome, suitable male, where there are less of them, yes, in this world, and they do tend to feel like they can get any girl that they want, and they don't try hard, i.e. Scandoval. I mean, he thought who the hell he was, and he knew that he could probably get any woman he really wanted to, and I feel like he did what he did because he has his own issues going on. I still believe he has his own issues going on in his head, that he has a lot of work to do on himself, and not a little bit of therapy is going to help that. Like, he needs a lot of therapy. Like, we all need therapy. We all just need somebody that we can talk to, that we can know that our feelings, emotions are safe with them, that they aren't going to go tell everybody on this earth how we are feeling. That is why I believe in therapy, because it is a safe place to talk about everything you are feeling and going through. I think that Rachel has a lot of work to do, just like I still have a lot of work to do. Though I have found a wonderful man that models what I've always wanted in a man, somebody that was like my grandfather and my father, who works their ass off, who is committed, who is loving, who is caring, that will do anything for me, protect me, give me the world, and he does. It took me a long time to get to this place. And I went through a lot of mental, physical, emotional abuse in my life that the therapy, the group therapy, everything that I've done to get me to this point has made me who I am today. And I am so lucky to have such an amazing man in my life that would do anything for me. And I truly want that for Rachel. I think that James and her were not good for each other. I think he had a lot of trauma that he was going through, that he was dealing with it the wrong way by drinking and just being overly emotional, and he's changed so much before our eyes. I hope that he keeps getting the help that he needs. I know Allie is a benefit in his life. I feel like she does help him a lot, and the change in James that we all see is good, though he also has a lot of work to do as well. I just wish for Rachel that she could find somebody that will treat her the way that she deserves, and that she could be happy with who she chooses. That's all I want for anybody, is happiness. And as much as I disagree with a lot of what Rachel says and does, I still want the best for her. And I'll say this too. I want the best for anyone that has been in my life, not in my life anymore, and was once a friend or is a friend. That's all I want for anyone. Even some random person on the street that I see walking. All I want is for everyone to have happiness, peace, and understanding in their life. Because I feel like we need more of it here on this earth.
He just has to, I used to say that the price of sex. So we live in a high supply sexual economy where the sex is in high supply and the price is very low. In 1950, the price of sex was 6 years of courtship and a wedding ceremony. In the 1980s, it was 3 expensive dates. Today, the price of sex is the barrel bottom price of one well-worded text. And sometimes it's just, are you up?
Okay, so what do you make of this? Is there like a solution to this problem?
Yes, I've written about this in all 3 of my books. And I'm working on a 3rd book right now called Blue Chip Sex, having the right kind of sex at the right time with the right person. You see, women hold all the cards in a relationship before sex happens, and they lose all the cards right after sex happens. So delaying the onset of a sexual relationship while you're doing some assessment is important. And I want to be really clear. This is not making him wait. This is not manipulating him so he'll love me more. This is you going, dude, I'm going to protect my eggs, my bloodstream, and my heart until you pass my test. It's about doing the choosing. It's about putting women in the power position, in the driver's seat in their relationships.
So how long would you recommend to wait to have sex?
That's always the big question. It's not about how many days or weeks or months, although I don't think you can have trust with somebody after one date. It is about when you can really trust somebody with your body. You see, sex is still it's a basic biological reality that women hate to think about, but it's basic evolution. Sex is a much higher risk hobby for women than it is for men, right? So if men have a bad sexual experience, it's a quasi bad day. If women have a bad sexual experience, it might involve falling in love with a loser because our bodies emit so much oxytocin and bond us with bad people. It might involve getting an STI because of our unique biology. We're much more likely to get an STI. And it might involve coming down with an 18-year case of parenthood, right? So for women, sex is nothing to be trifled with. There are no strings attached for women. I mean, we're trying to make the changes, birth control and protection and all those things to make it safer, but it's still not completely safe for women.
And let's be real. I know a lot of women listen to this podcast, and I'm not excluding any men that do listen to this podcast out. But when it comes to sex, she is absolutely right. We as women hold the cards because we as women have more to lose than, say, a man does, because we are the ultimate person that's going to have to bear a child if something goes wrong. And if we have even that one time sexual encounter with somebody, it could lead to, like she said, 18 years of having a child with somebody that could be completely wrong for us. Completely the most nastiest human being that you have to fight for your child and then some. That was something that I can honestly say that I give myself a little bit of credit for, that I did right in life. And I had a lot of, like I said, nasty men in my life that did not deserve me. And I am so happy that I did not bear a child with any one of them. And I'm happy where I'm at right now in life. And me and my boyfriend are trying. And we are happy with where we are together as a couple. And we know it's the right time for us. And that's all I ever wanted in life, was to make sure that I didn't fuck up, number one, because, like, I come from a very Italian Catholic family where, like, you get married, then you have babies, and I was already the black sheep of my family, per se, kind of thing. And even now, where my grandmother has gotten to know my boyfriend and she knows his fears about marriage, she's ultimately given me permission to be like, if you guys want to have kids, like, I don't think I'll ever be mad at you that you're not married, which for me is a relief, because I never want to make my grandmother feel disappointed in me, and I felt like that would always have been a disappointment if that happened. And maybe that's where, like, the fear of God came and made me, like, protect myself, especially with being with such douchebaggery men. But it gives me that ultimate feeling, like, I know that she understands where he's coming from and where we are in our relationship. 9 years together is a long time. That lasts longer than some marriages, let's be real. So I can totally see where Dr. Walsh is coming from, and she is absolutely right. And I feel like someone who went to a Catholic school, we didn't have sex ed. I don't think they even believed in it. But we need to start with the younger generation, where they're at that age where they are told, like, you know, listen, you are ultimately the one that holds the cards as a woman. You need to preserve yourself, preserve your right, protect yourself, and know that, like, if you are with the wrong guy, like, this is what it could lead to. And that ultimately, they're the ones that aren't going to give a damn, and you're the one that's going to have to worry, be concerned, carry that baby for 9 months, and all of that. I think that there needs to be more education when it comes to this, and more understanding when it comes to this. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this, but I think she makes solid points here with all of it.
I wanted to go back to the first thing that you were saying about attachment styles. And I know that you are an expert in attachment styles. So if you could, like, run down really quick for us, or for those who don't know what attachment styles are, the different types, and the type that you would ideally want in a relationship or want for yourself.
Sure. So I want to remind everybody, I'm not a clinician. I'm not a therapist. I'm a psychology professor, and I teach developmental psychology. I teach how our attachment style is formed early in life and what the outcome is in our adult romantic lives. Now, as an individual woman, I also healed my own attachment injuries through years of therapy, and have a very secure relationship now. But I began this journey studying psychology to solve my own dating problems, literally. So I know it from textbook, and I know it from inside. So basically, in the first 3 years of life, and some people would say even in the first 12 months, before we are verbal, so we can't store memories as stories and narratives, our brain triples in size in the first year, and it starts to form ideas about what's right and normal in life and what feels good and what doesn't. And so this is where, if there is neglect or abuse, that the child starts to think, well, this is normal, I guess. This is what love is, right? So there are different ways that attachment can play out. And I hate to put people into very specific categories, because the truth is we may attach differently to different people depending on what they ignite in us. But there, generally, you could say that, some people have more anxiety around attachment. They have an anxious attachment style. They have easily fears of abandonment. They count the time between each text. They count the words in each text. They are vigilantly searching for signs of abandonment. They're scrolling through their partner's social media, wondering, they're trying to get his passwords, trying to look for the DMs, etc. These are, now I used pronouns there, a female with male, but a male can have an anxious attachment style. And that's the dude that becomes a stalker. That's the dude who said, no, I'll pick you up at work. No, I don't like you talking to that guy at work. No, I don't want you dressed like that when we're going out, right? That's his fear of abandonment, right? This controlling thing that he tries to do to control his mate. Now, the fascinating thing about attachment style is that we're mostly unaware of it. And we go out in life thinking what we're feeling is normal. And so what we need in order to ignite that familiar anxiety is we need somebody who has an avoidant attachment style. When I say need, I mean need. And so we will find people who fear emotional intimacy. Oh, they may like physical intimacy, but they bolt pretty quickly afterwards. So they have trouble talking about feelings. They have little insight into their own feelings. They are very uncomfortable when you express your feelings. They have become masters at being dismissive, changing the subject, or indeed putting people down for having feelings. You know, when they call people needy, they're too needy. There's no such thing as needy. Everybody has their own needs that are valid for them, right? And so what ends up happening is there's this dance that can go on sometimes for years and decades where the anxious person is feeling unfulfilled, the avoidant person is feeling smothered, and this is a dyad that can change.
Now, I had to break this up a little bit because of copyright issues, of course. Sometimes I just like listening to what she has to say because it's very intriguing to me to hear about how we develop these things throughout our life, though we go oblivious to it throughout our life as well. And she makes some really interesting points about abandonment issues and how we are affected even from the ages of 0 to 3 years old. And maybe that is something that Rachel has to look more into, because I do feel like she has some kind of abandonment issues with everything that she's been through, and maybe that can explain her fear of feeling abandoned or not feeling good enough or having that people-pleasing aspect of her. These are all interesting. Let's continue, though.
Now, your question, what should we be looking for? Well, the 40% of Americans who have a secure attachment style are probably married to their college sweetheart and they're not on dating apps, okay? They tend to be people who can both give care and receive care comfortably. Remember, some people can do one or the other, but it's hard for both. They can take turns leaning on each other's shoulders. They can express their feelings in a non-confrontational, angry way. Hey, you know, kind of bothered me when you did that. I was wondering what was going on with you. And, you know, they just have normal conversations instead of, what are you doing? You know, and blaming the other person or trying to control the other person. They live, it's not that they don't have conflict. In fact, research on long-term securely attached couples shows that they actually have far more conflict than the other groups, partly because they deal with little border skirmishes all the time. They don't have the big knockdown, blow them out fights. But the other ones avoid conflict because they're so afraid of the breakup that could come from it. So they wait till everything builds, and then it's a huge thing. So how do you tell if somebody has a secure attachment style? Well, they respond to your texts and your needs. They don't run away. They're not dismissive. They're not overly trying to smother you. They're just kind of there. Like they might say something like, hey, I'll be happy to pick you up, but if you feel more comfortable bringing your own car, I understand. See, they're trying to figure out what you like instead of I'll pick you up, babe. Right? Control already.
Yeah, I would think that someone who has a healthy relationship with their parents would be a green flag, because typically that would, I would think, support a more secure attachment style in somebody relationship wise.
Yes and no. In fact, my first book was called The Boyfriend Test: How to Evaluate His Potential Before You Lose Your Heart. And the question, I did it like a Glamour magazine quiz, the whole book. And the question with the biggest amount of points is, what kind of relationship does he have with his mother? And what you're looking for is a relationship that's not too close and not too distant. If he tells you on his first few dates that he and his mother have a falling out and he really doesn't like his mother and he has problems, that's a big red flag. If he also says, I love my mom, I had the greatest mom, oh my God, it's so good, I go to their place on Sundays, I do my laundry sometimes, my mom is so wonderful, you're like, dude, do you need a wife, or are you just looking for a mistress? Because it sounds like you already have a wife. It's your mom, right? So we're looking for that. A healthy answer would be, you know, my parents did the best they could with the tools they had. There were some rough moments growing up, but we kind of got through it. And I feel like we come to this place now as adults where we have a fairly good relationship. That's a healthy way to describe your family.
I like Dr. Walsh. She makes, again, solid points. Rachel, if you've never seen the show Smothered on TLC, you really do need to check it out, because those green flags that you think are green flags, you have somebody that's way, way, way too involved with their parents and they're being smothered by their mother. That's where it's like they don't need a girlfriend because they have their mom that does everything for them. And that show, perfect example. And I want to say about 75% of those couples on that show did not work out. And those guys had healthy relationships with their mother, maybe too much of a healthy relationship with their mother. And parents, actually, too, because the majority of them are involved with their parents. It's their mother that's very overbearing and up their kid's ass, per se. If you've seen Smothered on TLC, let me know what you think about it down below. It's another one of my favorite shows to watch. But I also want to say, too, when it comes to having friends and those type of friendships, even having someone that is way too anxious when it comes to friendships, or looking for anything that their friends might be doing that will hurt them, and then you have people that are just, trying to avoid confrontation, and it gets so built up that it explodes. Those are things also to worry about within friendships, and it's something that I've had to deal with in friendships. And I know that it gets to the point where, like, you think that you could talk to people, but when, like, you feel like you can't, that confrontation that you guys have had that they're not aware of, maybe, or they are slightly aware of, but things aren't being talked about, can then explode into bigger issues and misunderstandings and miscommunication because of it. And it's important to even find friends that you connect with on a level that you are able to talk to them, have understanding, and know that, like, not everything you're going to agree on with each other, let alone that you are going to have issues within a friendship, just like you are in a relationship where you need to work on that. And if they're not willing to work on those things, then that's a red flag that maybe they're not really a good friend to you.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask you personally, I've had a hard time pinpointing if I have a avoidant attachment style or an anxious attachment style, because typically, like, growing up, I've been more of an anxious person,
Mhm.
but I tend to attract men who like to have control and are very anxious about who I'm going out with and need to know all the details. It seems like they fall more in that anxious attachment style. So then, therefore, it would make me more of an avoidant. And also, growing up, I had a harder time expressing my emotions and identifying my emotions, and I would just kind of like avoid tough conversations. So I think, knowing that, I think I have maybe more of a avoidant attachment style.
Well, it is a scale, and it
Okay.
also gets ignited in certain ways with certain people. This is a question for you and your therapist to work out. I can tell you from my experience when I hear you talking that it reminds me a lot of me when I was young, and it's called an anxious ambivalent attachment style. Anxious ambivalent is the come closer, I need you. Oh, not that close. So they're come forward, go away people. And an example from my early life would be I'd be always anxious for the bad boys to call me back. And then they wouldn't, and I'd be filled with anxiety. So I'd fill the gap with a nice guy. But if the nice guy actually gave me too much attention, I would act very dismissive and avoidant to push him away. It was like this in between space that felt okay for me.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Thank you for that insight.
You're welcome. But something for you and your therapist to talk about for sure, because at the end of the day, all therapy is, and all any kind of analysis should be, is for us to have awareness of our feelings and the behaviors that come as a result of the feelings. And once we are aware of what's motivating things, that alone can bring such relief, and it can help us so easily change our behavior.
Yeah, awareness is key. That's like the first step to any type of change, is being
Yeah.
aware of your attachment style, of your patterns.
Not that there's anything wrong with this, but it's just something that I have to point out. And the way that she, like, ends this sentence, she goes right into the next question. So that's why I put a pause right here. But, like, I feel like Rachel is still looking for answers from many different people, because she's just not understanding really who she is. And that's why she's asking for Dr. Walsh to be like, well, what do you think about me? What do you think that I am? And she's like, that's something you need to work with your therapist about. And I totally agree on that. This is something that she needs to work with her therapist and finding the answer. And she does give her a great example, which I can totally see Rachel as this type, where she gets very anxious that the bad boys aren't calling her back, and she, like, fills the gap with that nice guy, and then it's like too much, you're too nice, you're too good, go away kind of a feeling. And maybe she even still did that a little bit with her last date that she was with, Matt. I feel like he fit all of the right boxes for her, but one thing which seems like it was a complete misunderstanding, still in my opinion, threw it all off. And she threw that out the window so fast without even talking to him about everything that went on and how it played out. And if you missed that episode, that was actually the other dating experts episode. I will link it down below for you so you can check it out. But I talk a little bit about it there, how she goes into how wonderful this guy is, but the only thing that he had done wrong was he had posted too soon on social media about her. But if we look at the timeline of events, they were both posting the same day that they were with each other and friends on social media, and maybe he felt like because that they were already posting that it was okay for him to post that, you know, him and her were kind of dating. So I don't know, but I feel like Matt got a really bad deal with all of that. And he, from everything we've learned about Matt, he seemed like a really great guy. And I feel like she's maybe missing out on that.
Is it common for women to have dating patterns and date the same kinds of people, even after learning they aren't the best for them?
Yeah, so my favorite metaphor for the stages of growth, I don't know if you've heard this one before, is imagine that bad boy is a hole in the road and you're walking down the street and you don't see the hole and you fall in over and over again. And then you go to therapy, you learn about your attachment style, and now you're like, I'm not going to go out with bad boys anymore. And so you walk down the street again, and this time you see the hole and you recognize it and you still fall in. Stage 3 is you walk down that street, you hit a wall of, I am done with this. You see this bad boy. In the early stages, he's showing you all the behaviors that this is going down a path that you have seen before. And so this time, you very carefully step around the hole. But stage 4 is you take a different street. And there are so many people who have a secure attachment style who are not in the radar of somebody who has attachment injuries. And as soon as they're able to literally make a different choice, all of a sudden, all these people come into the radar who didn't even know these nice people were there before.
Yeah, I think maybe the part for people that are refusing to take a different path is the unknown and like not knowing if there is anything
Oh, change
better.
is scary. Change is scary.
So how does one break these patterns?
Well, you definitely should do it hand in hand with a licensed therapist, as I did. That's important. And the reason why the internet talks so much about red flags is they want people to pay attention to behaviors, little tiny things that happen very early on. I always say before you hit, because once you're in bed with the person, it's too late. You can't see. Your brain is now being assaulted by a cocktail of neurohormones that are making you feel lust and love. So you can't even see the red flags anymore. And in fact, there's lots of research to show that early stages of love is filled with delusions. It's the best drug we have. It's a really great drug until you hit the withdrawal part and you go cold turkey. So those early stage behaviors should be paid attention to in a very big way. Now, I want to be careful when I say this because there are other people who are avoidant who use the tiny little flaws in a normal human as, I'm not going about them again. I'm not seeing them again. Look at that one thing they did. These are not the people I'm talking to. The women I'm talking to tend to be women who have an anxious attachment style and ignore the red flags and proceed on love's race course and crash. And I'm here to say that watching for that hole and carefully walking around it may be as simple as, so here's an example. This has happened to me, and I remember it being part of my growth. Meeting somebody and thinking they were hot and getting into bed with them and everything's great for a few weeks. And then you start to feel that little weaning. He's not texting quite so much. You're doing more of the communication. Maybe you're even making the plans. You're starting to you feel it. You know that feeling where guys are just kind of weaning you off. Well, in the old days, the old Wendy would have tried to make him love me, offer him more sex, show up with better underwear, be crazed for him, show him that I am like the one, just ignore, just bring it back to where it was at the beginning. But this time, I called the dude up and I said, hey, I noticed a change in our rhythm. Feels a little bit like I'm investing more in this than you are. Can you help me understand what's going on? And dude said, oh yeah, I kind of noticed that too. I don't know, whatever. And I said, okay, well, if you don't know, then goodbye, darling. And he said, what? What do you mean? I said, goodbye, darling. And that is walking away. Now, it doesn't mean you won't feel loss and grief. And I did shed a few tears in the shower, justifiably. Fine. But you got to walk away when someone's starting to wean you. They're sending you a message. Don't get all anxious and think, I am going to beat out all the other girls. I am going to be the perfect girl. I'll make him come back around. There's nothing you can do. No amount of Pilates classes, no amount of cute notes sent on cute cards, no amount of, getting waxed in places you never thought you would are going to help. Okay? It's not going to work. If he's weaning you, move on. He's not the guy for you.
Good advice. Excellent advice.
I think we're making a little bit of a breakthrough, guys. What do you think? I feel like she saw so much similarity in just everything that Dr. Wendy had to say that she's seeing herself in that position. Like, she's been there, she's done this, she's had these same worries, concerns, and she's been through this, and hopefully she's understanding exactly what Dr. Wendy is saying. And with everything in life, you are going to have hurt, and it's something that we are going to have to learn to allow the hurt to happen, even with the unknown. And if we don't try things because we're scared, then we'll never know if that will benefit us or not. And I don't want to blame this also on like pageants, but I can see it being like a factor or like something that has affected Rachel, where she's always felt like she's in competition with other women, especially being in the pageant realm. You always have to feel like, all right, I have to have the best dress, I have to be better with my speeches, I have to be better with my posture, I have to be the best to win, to be the best. And that can affect her always feeling like she's in competition with other women, especially when she's dating. But when a man is attracted to somebody, they will give their all to that person. And if they're not giving their full attention, then that right there is a red flag for her, that she needs to find somebody that is willing to give her the attention and willing to give her the effort she's looking for.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to cut it off because like you have this whole concept of who this person is in your mind and you want it to be a certain way and you want love and
Called being
it's
in love with potential instead of the
mm,
reality. You
mhm.
can't fall in love with potential. You have to fall in love with what is he doing? What's he actually doing today, this week? And the craziest thing is some people will tell a partner flat out, I'm really not looking for a long-term relationship or a commitment. I don't see myself getting married anytime soon. And the anxious person pushes right through that. And I'm like, they just told you. And you're still going to keep pursuing this, even though that's not what you want. Well, they'll fall for me. They're just saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's something that we saw with Rachel and James's relationship, that she felt that she was the one that was going to change James, that she was the one that was going to make him a better person. And I think when she sees him with Allie and just how much progress he has made, though I know he has a long way still to go, I think that's why she's hurt. Not that he found somebody so fast, that he changed so much and she wasn't the reason that he changed, and that she wasn't good enough to have him change for her. Let's go on, because this is getting very interesting and I am totally digging Dr. Wendy Walsh's advice. I want to know what you guys think. Are you digging all of this? Let me know down below in the comments.
Okay, what are your thoughts on dating apps? I'm curious about this one.
Dating apps are the new nightclub without alcohol, which is wonderful. Dating apps shouldn't be called dating apps. They should be called meeting apps. They're just a place to meet someone. A dating app should feel no different than in the olden days. If you're at a nightclub and a dude walks by and says hi, you either look at him, don't look at him, say hi back, or don't turn your back, whatever. That's all a dating app is, that moment. And from there, it's about relationship skills. It doesn't matter where you meet somebody. It's all about relationship skills, and love can be learned. So here's the biggest problem with dating apps. They create a paradox of choice. I want to remind you what our brains are wired for. Our brains, in our anthropological past, an average human, in the course of their entire lifespan, never laid eyes on more than about 150 other humans. Today, you got 1,000 people every day who thumb swipe away. You're running into them in urban centers, on subways, in nightclubs, on dating apps. What the brain does when it's presented with too much choice is it has trouble making a choice. And when it does make a choice, it doesn't value that choice very much. And so dating apps are biohacking your brain to make you stay addicted to the app instead of finding a relationship. And the way you undo that biohack is you use it in a way so that you will not create paradox of choice. And my prescription is very simple. Never match with more than 2 people at once. Only have 2 people in your message box. Message with them back and forth until one of them shows you a red flag you don't like, and get rid of them. Now, if you have not been on the phone, I'm totally fine with ghosting, because again, the dating app is just somebody walking by in a nightclub going, hey, what's up? And you don't have to respond. It's a nightclub. You can look at your girlfriends and Ignore him, right? So that's all that is. Now, if you've been on the phone with him, which I do suggest you get on the phone after 3 texts, then you owe him a nice little ghosting text. My ghosting text was, hey, it was great talking to you. Have fun at your cousin's wedding next week. I don't think romance is in the cards for us, but I'd love to keep you in mind for a girlfriend sometime. I probably sent that to 100 guys. Nobody wrote back, bitch. They wrote back, well, thank you. That's so nice of you. Just be classy. Anyway, then you got the one left. That one you go on one coffee date with, and then you decide whether to send him the ghost text. And then you go match with 2 others. And this way you're only choosing between 1 or 2. You don't have 20 people in your box that's confusing your brain and making you hard to make a choice.
Yes. Okay. That's good advice. Because I was also going to ask you, like, dating more than one person at a time. I feel like there's a lot of advice out there that it's important to be actually dating more than one person. Otherwise, you could potentially just fall in love with one person without experiencing what else could be out there.
That's the voice of paradox of choice talking. Paradox of
Right.
choice says, oh my God, there's a bigger, better deal. Maybe this isn't quite the one, when you know there's more choice. It depends what your goal is. If your goal is to have, and by the way, I'm not like some traditionalist who's talking like I'm from the 1950s. You want a bunch of short-term relationships and some romps in the hay and use protection, go for it, girlfriend. You can own your own orgasm. I don't care. But if you are looking for a long-term committed relationship that may involve even reproduction, there's a very clear set of female mating strategies. And most of those brides out there you see in bridal magazines and in the bridal columns have used those strategies. And the strategies are this. These girls probably don't sleep with more than one person at once. And they do an assessment before they start sleeping with them. Then they try out the relationship and decide if they want to commit or not.
I will say that Dr. Wendy does explain this a lot better than Jake with the whole online dating and what it kind of is. And I think her theory on having too many options is definitely true. Though I also feel like Jake was right in the sense where he was saying, like, keep your options open. Like, don't just date one person, because then you're putting too much into that one person. And that's where he was giving Rachel that advice that maybe she's been giving her all to the wrong guy when she should have her options opened and see that there are other possibilities, especially if this guy is presenting you with so many red flags that you're not just putting all of your eggs in one basket type of a deal. I do like Dr. Wendy's advice, though, saying only have 2 options. I would say 2 to 3 options. I'm no expert, though. And then go from there, like she said, and try it out. Get to know them. See if there are red flags. And then make your choice from there if you're going to send him a ghost text or not. Or, as they say on Disrespectfully, put him in the basement.
There's this really interesting research about choice making. And it is this. When we finally do make a choice to commit to anything, then we really value that choice. Not if we have 20 other choices, but if we have this one and we've committed to, because you said, oh, you risk falling in love without thinking about all the others. That's called love. That's what you're supposed to do. Not think about the others. Just focus on that and fall in love, right? So, an example would be, you bought a Tesla and you're so excited about it. And there's a piece of you that's maybe like, I could have got another kind of car. There's so many electric cars on the market. But you want to convince yourself you made the best choice in the world. So what do? You run around and tell all your friends how much you love that Tesla and how much it is the greatest car in the whole world. And you are so invested in it. And it's a part of your identity now. Well, the same thing happens when you choose a lover. Here's a cool thing about love. If you believe you're in a happy relationship and you tell everybody you're in a happy relationship, you will be in a happy relationship. Life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So my answer to that is, yeah, fall in love with one person, date one person, tell everybody they're great. Now, if you're feeling pain and you're not happy in the relationship, then get out.
What is your stance on long distance relationships?
Less about my stance and more about the research. So the research shows that it's very attractive to people with an avoidant attachment style, obviously. And the other big problem with long distance relationships is that it's a series of little honeymoons. So long distance relationships don't have to endure the day-to-day bumps of just the stressors of traffic and spilled coffees and late for things and where's my guy and why didn't he show up at this and whatever, because they're scheduled weekends where it's all just a honeymoon romp. So they're not pure reality. Now, there's some other recent research on long distance relationships I just came across that I thought was so fabulous, that long distance relationships can be as close and meaningful as real world relationships if there's one important thing added, and it is emotional intimacy. So if you're talking and FaceTiming better than talking, of course, sight and sound better. If you're FaceTiming with your lover every day and you're talking honestly about your feelings, even if you had a bad day, if you can still lean on their shoulder and talk about it, then your relationship will still grow because you have the intimacy. A lot of long distance people are afraid to do that because they don't want to create rupture because it'll screw up the next honeymoon that's coming. So they don't test the relationship for emotional closeness for the little dings that happen during the week.
I think it's also interesting that you say like it's attractive to an avoidant attachment style person.
Oh yeah.
That makes
They don't have to show up for the day-to-day emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is this kind of like a dig at Ariana? Like, we know that Ariana is in a long-distance relationship, technically, with Daniel. I will say, though, like, when Dr. Wendy was describing what makes a good long-distance relationship, being able to FaceTime your partner every day, having that communication, and being able to talk about your feelings and things like that, we've seen that with Ariana and Daniel. She's always FaceTiming him when they're apart. She has been, with him now since she's back in New York for Chicago yet again, which I'm so excited. And she was with him for how many months when she was in New York for Chicago. We know that he was out there with her with Dancing with the Stars. So though they are long distance, they have made more of a commitment to be together. We also know that Daniel did help her get over a lot of the emotions that she was feeling with going through the breakup of a 9-year relationship with Scandoval and having her friend hurt her with the actions that these two chose. And that right there makes for good communication, especially in long distance relationships, like Dr. Wendy pointed out, because they're bearing their soul and they're being able to understand that this person has feelings and that they're communicating, and it makes for better communication within the relationship as well. I feel like these are like the little digs that she puts out there that not a lot of people pick up on, but like people like me or maybe even you are picking up on. And it's like when she said it, it was like, what long distance relationship are you involving yourself in? Because you're clearly meeting people in your area or around where you are. So where's this long distance relationship come into play, and why are you asking this question? It could just be she's trying to appease everybody, but I feel like it was a dig. What do you guys think? Let me know down below.
What is a good alternative for people who don't love dating apps to meet somebody?
Everywhere in the world. If you are in the mating marketplace, then every time you leave your door, look like you're looking for a date. That means hair and makeup and wardrobe, okay? Because this is a job. I say this to men and women and everybody. If you're schlumping around town with your hair in the knot on your head, or dudes, if you're in a bunch of baggy sweats, who are you marketing to? Once you're set up to market yourself, start catching people's eyes when you're pumping gas. Look to the person pumping in the car next door. When you're at the Tesla superchargers, when you're in the grocery store. Listen, ladies in the vegetable aisle in high heels, guys come and ask them dumb questions like, hey, excuse me, can I ask you a question? Like, how do you cook this chicken? You buy the roasted one over there too, but whatever. So you want to be open, smile, and catch people's eyes. You see, getting people to ask you out. I don't think women should ask out men, but women should issue invitations. And invitations is all about the smile and the body language and the hair flip. And you should do that in every place of your life, except be careful with the workplace.
Good advice there.
Oh, and I also want to say there's new research. So I'm also an ambassador for datingadvice.com, a major website. And they just did a survey of where people are mostly meeting now because dating apps have been going down. LinkedIn, because LinkedIn can be a business contact or a date. Nobody knows. You could offer to meet with somebody in your industry just to talk about certain things. And then you could decide on your coffee date whether you want to turn this a little bit personal. And there's no HR department in LinkedIn, no sexual harassment lawsuits.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
Now, I'm not somebody looking to date anybody because I'm in a seriously committed relationship. But I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are. Like, if you are into these dating apps, are you actively going on dates with people? Are you meeting anybody on these dating apps that you can potentially see yourself with? Or are you doing it like the old-fashioned way, meeting them in bars or grocery stores or in your everyday life? I want to know what you guys that are dating are doing, because I'm curious, because I feel like she's not really into this whole dating app thing, which in the sense, I feel like she might feel too good for a dating app because she has that little bit of a celebrity status and people might recognize her, and she's worried about being on a dating app and people recognizing her and only being with her for that attention that they'll get being with a celebrity. But I feel like that's why she's asking these questions. Like, so if I'm not into these dating apps, like, what else can I be doing? So I want to know what you guys are doing, since I'm not dating and I haven't been dating for a long time. What are some things that you guys are doing to meet people? Let me know down below. And if you're not dating, I want to hear what you guys think people should be doing to meet other people, because I can give my advice and not be dating. So I want to hear what you guys who are in committed relationships as well think about dating apps and what people should be doing to meet other people.
Okay. How quickly do you think you should be exclusive?
Okay. It drives me crazy when people write to me and say, so my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that, and we've been going out a month. And I'm like, he's not your boyfriend after 1 month, okay? And if he says he is, somebody's got an anxious attachment there.
Ooh.
It takes time to do some assessment.
Mm-hmm.
In my book, The Boyfriend Test, I suggest that everybody needs a minimum of a 90-day probation period. It should be at least 3 months. And, that's when you're starting to come out of your cocoon and introduce each other to friends and see how they walk in the real world, right? So around 90 days is usually the time. I also do not believe that anybody should consider moving in together until they've been together a year. Until you've gone through 4 seasons and all those holidays, you should not be thinking of sharing a lease.
Back to the dating apps. Has the dating atmosphere now created more anxious attachment styles?
Well, the dating atmosphere doesn't create attachment style. It's created in early life. And what's created more attachment injuries is modern American capitalism. You see, before the 1960s or 70s, most families lived together. Often they were multi-generational families. We were more rural and agriculture-like. You lived in a smaller place where you knew everybody in town. All the mates were vetted for you by family members, and you felt a sense of place and a village around you. Now, because modern capitalism needed employees and they needed mobile employees, they tour workers from those families of origin and from those villages, and they sent them to big cities. And there with the big cities, so these parents dragged around kids in the same way. Kids lost contact with cousins and grandparents, and they had a sense of that, we put so much emphasis on individuality in America, but being independent and individual is not necessarily healthy. We're supposed to be connected to others. And so people grow to think, oh, I'm not here for a long time. I myself, I would say that some of my attachment injuries had to do with the fact that my dad was military and we moved constantly. By the time I graduated high school, I had gone to 10 different schools. So my attitude is that I'm here for a short time. Don't want to get too close. Don't know how long it's going to be, right? It is the mobility needed for modern American capitalism that has been causing breakups of intergenerational families, been causing divorces as one partner goes somewhere else for a better job, and kids are being dragged through this. That's the problem.
I do agree with her that times have definitely changed, and it was a lot different a long time ago. I even see it with my grandmother, who my grandparents' families knew each other forever. They were in the same area, they had helped each other, they ran businesses together, and my grandfather had knew my grandmother from a very young age, and when they got older, yes, they kind of, not in the sense pushed together, but he had seen her grow up and he had grown up with her, that they finally had that connection and went on a date, and it was love in all the right places for her. I will say that. Now, with my parents, my dad was originally from down south, and he moved up here, up north, where I am, because of the Coast Guard. And that's how my mom met my dad. And there were a lot of different ways that my dad was raised than my mom was raised, and it worked out beautifully because I think it made me a better person, where I had a different perspective on both culture sides, how my dad was raised compared to my mom was raised, and kind of where I fit in the middle, and how I would like my kids to be raised as well. I, though, don't see this as much as a problem as maybe Dr. Wendy. I feel like with every new problem that we have in our society, there is a solution, and we need to adapt and find a solution to these problems. I think it's wonderful that we are commingling and getting to know different people from different regions, different areas of the world, and all of that. And I think it only will make us a stronger, united front when it comes to all that. And I don't want to bring politics into this because I'm not really big on politics and discussing it, but I do see what she means when it comes to how politics do play a role and how it's changed and how we have changed as a society in general. What do you guys think?
Okay, how many dates does it take to know if this person is right for you typically?
It's not number of dates, it's degree of intimacy. You know, I love that New York Times column, 36 questions to fall in love. Have you ever done those 36 questions with somebody? There's an app now for it. They had a psychologist make a series of questions, 36 of them. And if you do them on a date with a partner, and probably not a first date thing because it gets pretty intimate, this psychologist tried it out on a couple, and he ended the 36 questions with another proven in all kinds of research way to fall in love, which is to simply stare into each other's eyes for 4 minutes. 4 minutes. It's like the eyes are the window to the soul. So this couple he tried it out on did it, and they were married within 6 months. Most people who get through the 36 questions, honestly, do report feelings of love at the end of it because the questions evoke intimacy. They're not all down and dirty. It takes a while till you get into childhood trauma and fears and whatever. It starts lightweight and looking for commonality. But then it gets into questions about we. Like it might be a first date and you're halfway through the questions. And one of the questions is, what are 3 things you can say that probably both of us are feeling right now? So it might be, well, cold in the room. We're both cold, or mad at that waiter, or something. You're creating commonality, right, in the brain. And so it is not about how many dates. It's how intimate, emotionally intimate you can get. And the research is clear. The people who stay together the longest may not have the best sex life, may not be wired financially or matched financially or educationally, but they sure have emotional intimacy. It is the glue. You know, years and years ago, you're too young to remember this, when Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee were married, some handyman stole a video of them having sex. And it was released and went around the world. She went to court and sued them and never got the rights back. It's a tragedy. She talks about it in her documentary on Netflix, and it's just a beautiful way she talks about it. I was less interested in the porn on the video and more interested to see their intimacy. They called each other baby. Come here, baby. Oh, you're so cute. And in their intimate moments, I saw the connection they had. Of course, they had 2 children together. They were together for a long time. And that's what intimacy is.
Interesting. I haven't heard it that way.
Now, the more we get into this, the more I keep feeling like she wasn't happy with Jake's advice, the other dating expert, on what he had to say regarding his opinions and thoughts about dating and what's worked for him and his clients, that she's now asking Dr. Wendy the same questions to see what she has to say because she wasn't satisfied with Jake's answers. And I'm not sure if she's very satisfied with Dr. Wendy's answers, but I do feel like she is definitely more satisfied than she was with Jake than like she is now. Like she's satisfied with the way Wendy's approach is, how she's answering questions, and what her thoughts and opinions are on dating. And we don't have any input from the producer either, which is another indicator that this is going much smoother the way Rachel wanted it to than with Jake, the other dating expert. What do you guys think? Let me know down below.
When it comes to dating apps, what do you think makes a strong dating profile?
Lots of research out of the Kinsey Institute says this. Okay, so the biggest problem with dating apps, well, a couple problems. Well, I mentioned paradox of choice. The other problem is most people with a healthy attachment style marry the college sweetheart, so they're probably not on the dating app. So you have a disproportionate amount of people who have attachment injuries or disorganization. It doesn't mean they can't heal and aren't working on them. I mean, you're not looking for a perfect person. You're looking for somebody who's aware and doing the work, right? But the other thing is you have people looking for a short-term relationship and people looking for a long-term relationship in the same dating pool. And the best way to get a short-term relationship is to pretend you're looking for a long-term relationship, right? So people will say, oh yeah, I'm looking for a relationship, just haven't met the right person. By the way, it's not about the right person. It's about relationship skills and learning how to be the right person. So what dating app profiles? Most important thing for women is to not signal that you want a short-term relationship. So if your pictures are overly sexy, dude's like, I'm going to say whatever I need to get that body. All right. So you don't have to, just by showing up with estrogen. And there are men, when men are looking, I will tell you this, when men go on a first date, 100% of them, they are thinking in the back of their head, am I going to meet my wife tonight? or am I going to get laid? They're one or the other to them. So women think if I lead with sex, he'll like me. Yeah, he will for a short time. But the guys looking for long-term commitment, when they see overly sexy girls, they think, she's giving it to everybody. That's not my wife. Now, you don't have to be a prude, but being overly sexy, thinking you need to compete with all those sexy women is not a good idea. There's research to show that when women smile in a picture, they get in their primary picture, they get more swipe rights. And so the duck face, the smile works better. There's research to show that when you wear red, you're getting more swipe rights. Just wearing red. For men too, wearing a red shirt, they get more swipe rights. Things that don't work is a laundry list of things you're looking for. I'm looking for a man who's this. The guy reads it and he's like, well, you're looking for a resume? I don't know if I fit, right? And when men say that about women, we're like, don't be so judgy, whatever. What you want to do is tell a short, cute story about yourself that shows your personality and a little bit about your life.
I know that I keep going back to this other episode, but everything that Dr. Wendy just said was literally exactly what Jake said in his dating advice for what to put in a dating profile. He even offered to help Rachel with a dating profile if she was interested in online dating. I do feel too that Rachel maybe connects more with Dr. Wendy and her advice than she did with Jake, and she's listening better or more clearly with Dr. Wendy than she did with Jake, though they have said very, very similar things, especially when it comes to the online dating and what is really needed in a relationship and what people are looking for on online dating and things like that. It's really similar advice, just said in a different way, and I think that she's picking up more on it because she relates more with Wendy than she did with Jake. What do you guys think?
For instance, I was helping a woman with a profile a while ago, and by the way, there's somebody for everybody at every age across the whole lifespan. And this woman happened to be 70. She happened to have a beach house, and she wrote a little thing. I helped her write a little thing about my favorite Saturday is getting up early and lining up all the surfboards and wetsuits for the grandkids, and then making pancakes shaped like animals. And the other part of the great Saturday is sending them home by 3 p.m. so I can clean my house and have a great evening with an adult. And it's a little story. And it tells about my life. It says, I got grandkids, I'm connected to family, I love them, I have a beach house, I'm all these things. And all that is a short little story that tells a lot about your life. Instead of the laundry list. And please, people, do not list brands. I've seen dating profiles that people think they're cute. They just list brands. I love Gucci and Tesla and I love blah, blah, blah. I'm like, ooh, can you be more commercial?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And the other thing is, so in my dating profile, my main picture was me with a headset on and a microphone I have a radio show, right, in the radio studio. Mm-hmm. And I was wearing a sweatshirt that said, I'm not for everybody. And that made me a little hard to get because my fiance, we're getting married next month, saw it. He was like, oh, she may not be for everybody, but she's for me, right? You want to be unique to one person. You don't want to attract thousands of people. You want to attract one perfect person. So be unique to them. What that picture said is, oh, she does radio. She's got a big mouth. She's a big mouth woman. And she knows her worth. She's not for everybody. She'll walk away. Ooh. And most of the men went, ooh, bitch, I don't want to deal with that. Except the guy who loves strong, big mouth women.
Compatible. Yes.
Exactly.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like we've kind of went through it all and got more clarity. And thank you so much for providing those statistics.
It's all research and data laced with real life stories.
It's been special. Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck to you in the mating marketplace. Don't worry. It's a bit of an endurance test, but your biggest value is the word no.
And I totally agree with Dr. Wendy. You want to show that you are unique, that you are different than the rest, so that way you attract to a person that loves you for who you are. I will say this too. I get a lot of people that think that calling me a wacky Jacci is an insult because I'm just so wacky. I'm different. I'm out of the bubble, the norm, but that is who I am, and I embrace it, I enjoy it, and I love that nickname. So, unbeknownst to them calling me that is not an insult. It shows who I am as a person. It says that I have a unique personality, and I might be a little different than all the rest, but I'm fun, unique, and I'm a little wacky at times, and I embrace it. I love it. It's part of my personality and who I am, and I feel like we also connect as a community here because of my uniqueness, my personality. And I love that we can all be unique and individual and come together as one and discuss it and have so much fun. And that's what I love about my community here with you guys, is that you embrace my wacky side. And I feel like Rachel needs to embrace those things that make her unique, special, and different. Because if not, she's just going to be like an average woman where she has no unique, like, qualities about her that men can attract themselves to, which is that uniqueness about her as an individual. And she's kind of bland. She's kind of like nothing special, and that's just the way like she presents herself. And I think that her breaking out of her shell has made her more confident in everything that she loves, and she's embracing it and enjoying it, and that's a positive thing for her. And I like I say every episode, I wish her all the best. I really do. And I hope that we can see a different side to Rachel, that we get to embrace her uniqueness with her.
Okay, so I feel like it was a lot. It was a lot of information. It was a lot of data and research, which I love because it's like these studies are showing what is working the most in these situations. So it's really good to have that knowledge. It's interesting having Dr. Wendy Walsh come on in comparison to Coach Jake, the last relationship coach that came on. I feel like Coach Jake had more of like a men's perspective, whereas Wendy was more of a woman's perspective. And I think there's things to take away from both of them. I think I'll definitely be implementing what Wendy was talking about, like every time you step out of the house, to look presentable and to like have a smile on your face and just look like you are someone who is welcoming, because I think dating apps is definitely something that I'm down to try, but I think meeting someone organically is a great way to go too. And I don't want to completely shut that out as an option. Taking from both dating experts that we've had on this podcast now, like keeping it light and polite and not getting too deep and heavy too quickly is something that I can see myself implementing into this new dating experience, because I think that will help to avoid like a trauma bond or like, pushing somebody away who like thinks that that's too much. Just like all the trauma dumping and stuff like that. Like I'm very aware of the situation that I'm in, and I would like to present that like this is the situation and matter of fact about it, because let's be honest, like I do have some baggage now, but I don't think going too deep into that is necessary. I want this person to get to know me as me. So yeah, I'll definitely be taking what feels good from both of these experts that I've had on so far and implementing into my new dating experiences.
I mean, I called it. I knew what she was doing when she started asking the same questions that she had asked Coach Jake, and was trying to feel out Dr. Wendy. And I do agree, like, maybe he saw it from a more of a male perspective, but the advice that he was giving wasn't from a male perspective. He was giving it from a general perspective to any normal person that is out there dating. And I feel like she kind of feels above everybody else because she has a little bit of a celebrity status title. And for her, she's looking for somebody to cater or give her the answers that she's looking for. And I felt that she was relating to Dr. Wendy, and that's a great thing. That's not a bad thing at all. And I'm glad that she did, because Wendy was giving her the same advice but in a different way of wording it than Coach Jake was. I think both of these experts have a lot of knowledge when it comes to dating, relationships, and all of that. They both gave wonderful advice. If you are somebody that is dating, I hope that these episodes have helped you. If you are somebody even in a relationship, I hope that these episodes have helped you. I know even me, who's been in a 9-year relationship with my boyfriend, I've taken away a lot from these two experts. We all are not perfect people. We all have our own work and journey to go on. And I hope that Rachel can work even harder on herself to be able to attract somebody that she is looking for, that will give her everything that she needs and deserves. I hope that she continues with, just looking at different experts' advice, especially with the dating, because I feel like she's not quite set and how she feels about venturing out and dating new people. And it's kind of that fear of the unknown. Fear of getting hurt again. Fear of putting too much into a relationship and not getting enough back. And no matter what we do in life, hurt is part of the process of healing, grieving, moving on, learning from these lessons, and becoming a stronger, better, positive person for ourselves and for everybody around us. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I cannot wait for the next episode. I'm jumping right into it. She's actually going to be talking a little sneak peek for you guys about her time at SUR. So though she says she's done with Vanderpump Rules, it doesn't seem like she's done talking about it. So I will see you guys again very soon. Make sure to like this video if you have not yet already. Subscribe to my channel and turn those notifications on to all so you can get notified every time I post a video or go live. Alright guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that this was very helpful for you all.
I wanna burn all the bridges between us.